Latvia's separation from the USSR. Latvia has had a long history of fighting for independence. Latvia first gained independence from the Russian Empire in 1918. After 3 years of fighting, a peace treaty was signed and Latvia's constitution was initiated in 1922. This was called the Sat Vesme. After the effects of World War II and the Ribbentrop Pact was signed, Latvia was under Russian occupation again, only from Soviets. During these early occupation days, some Latvians fought against the Soviets with violent measures. Most of these violent protests were insignificant and didn't impact the state of Latvia's freedom. This was happening across the Baltic states. What was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact? The pact allowing the Soviet Union to take control of the Baltics was a secret agreement between Hitler's Nazis and Stalin's Soviets, often nicknamed the Nazi-Soviet Pact as a result. This agreement allowed Soviet forces to take over the Baltic states without German interference. The pact was signed in 1939. Latvia suffered the consequences of this pact for many years. The opportunity for independence arose with Gorbachev's policies of glasnost and perestroika. Gorbachev's perestroika changed the economic and political policies throughout the Soviet Union, encouraging enterprises to become self-financing and economic powers decentralized. This extended to the overarching reign of the Communist Party's powers over smaller governments. Gorbachev's policies reduced the direct involvement of the Communist Party, and in 1988, the Soviet Union had a new parliament, the Soviet Congress of People's Deputies. This allowed little variation as majority were communist, but it began creating opportunities. Glasnost also loosened control over the public. Glasnost allowed some criticism of the government and those involved. The media control was loosened and un-Soviet music was allowed to be played in Eastern Europe. Although this loosened controls, the USSR wanted to maintain its territory. Some protests did not end peacefully. Protests from 1987. In 1987, a Latvian human rights group organized a commemoration day. June 14th, flower-laying commemorated deportations at the Freedom Monument in Riga in 1941. This protest was considered a turning point in Latvia's independence. The protest was organized by Helsinki 86, a name taken by the human rights defense group from the Helsinki Accords. The group arranged many protests and gatherings against the Soviet Union's occupation. The Freedom Monument protest was one of the first that gained a huge monument, often called calendar riots, as the events took place on important days. Authorities did not break the demonstration up, but did cause it difficulties to run smoothly. A bike marathon was moved to the day and the finish line at the monument. The monument protest organizers were unsure if it would gain much support. Official reports say 100 to 150 people attended, likely underestimating the numbers. Authorities also isolated organizers of the events. Despite many people commemorating and laying flowers for those deported, the event marks the start of the singing revolution. The news was published in American newspaper Washington Times. It was short and brief, detailing the incident at surface level. It shows little bias and only tells of what the Communist Party's newspaper told. In comparison to an eyewitness account from Olita Korf, is left out much of the challenges those who participated faced and consequences that they could get. The Cheka, being a Soviet police force that fought against counter-revolutionaries, may have intimidated people from joining in the protest. This eyewitness also talks about the school bike marathon blocking the path. Once again, the Helsinki 86 group organized a protest. On August the 23rd, 1987, marked the anniversary of the signing of the Molotov Pact. The protests sought to deny all claims that the pact had on Latvia being in Russia's territory. It gained traction with many other countries agreeing that the pact was null and void. Many other protests like this were held across the Baltics. Worried that the USSR would shut down the protest, the US Congress wrote to Gorbachev. 20 congressmen signed the letter sent to Gorbachev and high officials in Latvia and the surrounding Baltics. The document asks that no unforeseen consequences come to those participating and organizing. The document shows the US support for independence. But the peaceful demonstrations were not the only kept peaceful by the Americans. The organizers attempted to minimize any potential clashes. Again, officials tried to defer those protesting. Street repairs, bus delays, and a heavily military and police presence tried to lessen crowds. Despite this, the protest was a roaring success. The Baltic States human chain in 1989 was the final nail in the coffin. Thousands of people across Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania turned out. The chain stood to stand in the face of communism. Approximately 2 million people came. The event was huge. As the other Baltic states regained their independence, so did Latvia. The political opposition to the communists won the 1991 election. Although Gorbachev nullified the independence, no violence came about, and freedom endured. Latvia celebrated the first post-Soviet vote in 1993, which was controversial, as it only allowed those who were alive before the occupation or their children and relatives to vote. Finally, in 1994, Soviet troops left Latvia. Latvia's independence has seen many rocky situations, as it has a large Russian-speaking population. Many Soviet citizens are classified as aliens on their passports, and many have mixed feelings of the Soviet era.